Hello, welcome to another crafting video. My name's Beth and today I'm going to take you through my autumn and winter knitting plans. So I currently have 8 categories of plans that I'd like to get through, as well as some outstanding Christmas gifts and some honourable mentions. So I have quite a hefty list, but grab a project or stick me on in the background and I'll show you some patterns. These patterns are in no particular order and I'm just going to go down the list as I've written it. The first category on my list is a hooded scarf. I think this accessory could be quite practical. I live in a place where it tends to rain suddenly in the winter, so it'd be nice to have a scarf, but also I can pop up the hood if there's a little shower. In my Ravelry deep dive for this category, I came across 2 patterns which have kind of sealed it for me. So my top 2 contenders for this category are the Sadie Snuggle Snood by Famke, or Mippy the Label, and Capucharp, which is by Caledonia Dreamin'. Both of these patterns are great. The Sadie Snuggle Snood is a cabled, patterned, like textured knit, and the Capucharp is more of a simple one-stitch pattern. Currently, I am leaning towards the Sadie Snuggle Snood. I really like the look of the pattern. I really like a cabled, textured moment. The only concern I had is the yarn that I'd like to use for this is speckled, patterned. Hold on, I'll get it. So this is the yarn that I'd like to use for my hooded scarf. As you can see, it's a cream yarn with pink and navy speckles. So I just wanted to make sure that this would work well with that pattern. But I've decided I'm going to use it anyway. So what I'm going to do is, the pattern calls for a sport weight yarn. I am going to pair this with either a mohair or a brushed alpaca to bring the weight up a bit. And that also should calm down the speckles a little bit and hopefully lend itself well to the textured pattern. So I'm really looking forward to that one. If I end up not liking this yarn with the Sadie Snuggle Snood, I shall pull it out and I'll knit the Capucharp instead. So either pattern is great. So stay tuned to find out what this becomes. My second category for accessory patterns are socks for myself. I have gotten really far with the socks that I'm making for my family for Christmas, and I am dying to start making socks again for myself. So I've picked out 3 patterns to get myself excited for that. And they're all free, which is great. Just a bonus. The first pair of socks I'd like to make for myself are the Fioriti socks by Lisa Schmidt. They are these beautiful lacework socks, quite simple, and I'm picturing them in lilac or light purple sock weight yarn. I don't have the yarn for this yet. It's something I'd like to pick up from the Knit and Stitch show in October. Yeah, looking forward to picking out some sock yarn. The second pair of socks I'd like to make for myself are the Sinope socks by Audrey Borrego. They are a colourwork sock, just at a little bit below the cuff. I'm really getting into colourwork now, and I think moving the colourwork into socks is just like a natural next step. I love the motif on these, and I really like the colourway that they are in the sample, but I will probably pick some brighter colours that I have in my scrap from making Christmas presents. And the last pair of socks that I'd definitely like to make for myself are the Satyr socks by Maja Carlson. I have actually already cast these on. It was I promise, it was just a sneaky one because I didn't have the measurements for another sock and I didn't have the yarn for another Christmas project. So I just cast something on for myself. This is another colourwork sock. It's got a small band of colourwork right at the cuff, and I just really like the motif on this. I am going to heavily modify this pattern, and I'll tell you in the next episode what I've ended up doing, but I'm also going to make this one out of scrap yarn, and I have picked my colours. So I'm going to knit the Satyr socks out of these 2 scraps. Both of these I used for other socks to make for Christmas presents, so I'm really glad to be using them up. Both of these colours I really liked as I was working with them, and I was a bit sad that the socks weren't mine. So this way I get a chance to use them in a sock that is mine. These are the Life in the Long Grass in Night and Somerset Yarns in Anastasia. So the next bunch of projects we're going to talk about are garments, and the first category is a boucle sweater. I have already picked out the pattern. It's my favourite things knitwear pattern, sweater number 24. I never remember the numbers, but there we go. My hope with this pattern is that I go to the Knit and Stitch show and I find some absolutely gorgeous hand-dyed alpaca boucle, preferably, although now that I have found out I am not allergic to mohair, I would go with some mohair boucle as well. I would like to find some gorgeous kind of bluey, pinky hand-dyed boucle would be my hope. But if not, there are lots of places that do gorgeous hand-dyed boucle options. I'd also like to hold it with a single strand of lace weight alpaca, because I have heard that boucle is a pain in the butt to work with, and if you hold it with a non-textured yarn, it makes it slightly easier to knit with. So that would be my plan. Lace weight alpaca, hand-dyed boucle yarn, held together to make a beautiful My Favourite Things Knitwear sweater 24. My next category is a colourwork jumper. Again, I've already picked this out and I've already started it. I made a whole video on picking the colourwork pattern that I wanted to make, and I'm making the Forget Me Not sweater by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence. I did already show the yarn in the last video, but in case you missed it, I'm making it in these three colours, which are Marzipan, Dusty Violet and Artichoke Purple. And I will definitely be showing my progress on my next regular podcast update. I am thoroughly enjoying this pattern, although I have already had to pull it out and restart once because I was knitting the wrong size. As a new colourwork knitter, I'm finding the pattern really engaging and not too difficult to keep up with. I'm reaching the bit where I have to hold 3 colours of yarn together, and managing that is a little difficult, but it's only for 3 rows and you get warned about that in the pattern. So that was a nice thing to just like brace myself that this was going to be the tricky bit, and once I've done 3 rows it will be gone, and then you're almost finished the colour chart after that. I'm really looking forward to finishing the yoke again and getting a bit of the way through the body so I can start seeing how this jumper is going to fit me. And I'm really excited to have a colourwork jumper in my collection. The next category of pattern is a textured cardigan. I actually don't have a hand knit cardigan in my collection. I have been knitting for a long time now and I've always only knit jumpers. So this is going to challenge me a little bit. For the pattern, I have picked the Minot cardigan by Louisa Rekoff. I'm so excited to get started. I have half of my yarn for this. I'll talk more about this yarn in my next podcast update, but I picked up this gorgeous Noro yarn, the Silk Garden Sock Solo, in the colour S84 while I was visiting my brother and sister-in-law in Switzerland, and I fell in love with the colour. And I've decided I am going to pair it with a mohair. The Noro Sock Garden Silk Solo looks like a 1-ply. I know there's lots of strands in there, but it looks a bit like a 1-ply, and I wasn't sure how it was going to wear. So I figured I would pair it with mohair and hopefully it would wear a little bit better. I wanted to match the skein of the original yarn as close as possible so it could keep the colour, and I've picked the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in Dusty Rose. I've made my swatch already and I really like how these two look, and it doesn't take away from the textured pattern as much as I thought it would. So very excited to get started on this one. This pattern is a mixture of cables and brioche stitch. So that's a stitch that I haven't done before. I've never made anything in brioche before. And because it's a cardigan, I've never knitted a double knit button band before, which is another thing I'm going to have to learn in this pattern. So I'm really hoping that this cardigan will help me fill in a lot of gaps of my skills. I'm excited to have more cardigans in my wardrobe and more options other than jumpers. I love a jumper, but I do find cardigans a bit easier to wear. Hello, I'm jumping in on a different day because as I was editing, I realised I left out one of my garment plans. So I'm just going to slide this footage in here. So my next category is a cable jumper dress. I would like to make the Agio sweater by Caroline Skovgard Benson. The original length in the sample is just past the bum, kind of mid-thigh, but I would like to extend it so it's just below my knee. I know this is going to be quite an undertaking. It's a cabled sweater. I'm going to knit it into a dress length, so it's already going to be longer than it should be. It's also quite oversized, so there is a lot of work in this, but I can already picture the outfit that I want to wear it as a part of. I've got these tan boots and I'd like to wear it over tights. So I'm really keen to get this going. This one is probably going to be a bit later in the winter after I've done my colourwork jumper and Minu cardigan. So we'll see. But yes, I'm quite keen to have this on my needles. I don't have yarn for this one, but I would like to use either the suggested yarn that's in the pattern, which is Gepard Puno, or the Camo Rose Snufnug, which I can get at a yarn store up in Angel. We are on to home decor next. I would really like to make sure I have 6 stockings in total for Christmas. I have 4 made already, and I would like to make 2 of the Christmas stocking by Petite Knit. It's a felted Christmas stocking, which I think looks awesome, and you can embroider names onto them. I'm gonna embroider mine and my partner's names, which I think would be cute. I actually know a few people who work with leather, so I'm hoping I can get one of them to add the little loop of the strap for me, because I think that really makes this pattern, the samples, look really cool. So yes, I'd like to make 2 of those. And lastly, for the categories, I would love to make a Stella quilt cushion with the leftovers of my temperature blanket. Now, this does highly depend on me finishing my temperature blanket, and I am currently very behind schedule. We have had a very hot summer and an extended summer. It's September now, and it is still 20 degrees plus centigrade. I am just not interested at all in making a blanket. It's at the size now where I basically have to wear it on myself to work on. It's just too hot. So I'm going to continue to get more behind with the blanket, and I'm not sure I'm going to make my deadline of finishing it this year. So that means the scrap projects that I make from the yarn also will have to get pushed back. But I'd love to make the Stella quilt cushion by Laura Penrose to go with the finished blanket. Now this is an autumn winter plans list, so even if this is my last thing that I do, I could make this in February. So hopefully I can bring some time back on the blanket and get it done hopefully in January at a reasonable time, and then that gives me a little bit of time to make some cushions. Next up is outstanding Christmas gifts. So first I'm going to make my partner a pair of colourwork socks. These ones I've actually designed myself and will be my first attempt at kind of self-drafting. Well, do you ever self-draft a sock? I just feel like you pull from the knowledge that you already have. So if you know the stitch count, you know how you want to do the cuff, you know how you want to do the colourwork, you pick your favourite heel. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I'd like to make a colourwork sock. I have picked out my colours and I will tell you more about the design in the next episode. I have a bunch of colours by Langyans Javol. Some of these are scraps from other socks. Some of these I bought the orange new because I didn't have an orange. If you can have a guess about what motif I'm going to make, have a go. Tell me in the comments if you can guess. But I am so excited. I'm really pleased with the design I made. So yeah, stay tuned if you want to see how they turn out. The other outstanding Christmas gift I want to make are a pair of mittens for my mum. I think I'm going to make the Spoonie mittens by Skein Deer Knits, and I'm going to use these beautiful colours. So that's another colour of Langyarn's Yarvol, as well as some lichen and lace sock minis in these beautiful pastel colours, which are going to be the background of my snowflakes. I really love the colour work in this pattern. I'm really excited to have these mittens done. I think this might be the next pattern that I start. I might even start it today if I want to ignore the fact that I now have a pair of socks on the knitting needles. My mum had a hand in picking the pattern, and then I've gone away and picked the colours. So yeah, very excited to see how those turn out. I am a little worried about sizing because my mum has smaller hands than me, but I think in this pattern it gives you options to use different needle size for different sizes. So we'll see how that goes. So my extra Christmas present pattern is going to be the Cozy Autumn Socks by This Handmade Life. So the last outstanding Christmas project I have is actually a redo. Well, not quite. Basically, one of the people I have made a pair of socks for, I forgot, might have a wool sensitivity. They don't know how they're going to react to sock yarn, which is super wash and has nylon in it. But I was already a pair and a half through the socks before we were having a conversation about it, and I was like, I'm still going to finish these socks. So finished the pair of socks. But what I was looking at was trying to find a non-wool version of sock yarn so I could have a go at making some wool-free socks. And as I was in Lidl today, I found some elastic and viscose yarn. The darker colour is actually very similar to the colour I made the original pair of socks out of. So I'm going to attempt to use this yarn to make a wool-free pair of socks. And I will still gift them, both of them. And that way, if they aren't sensitive, they have 2 pairs of socks. And if they are, then they still have a pair of socks that they can use. My plan is to make myself a pair of socks first in the colour I didn't want to use for theirs, just to get the gauge. We have similar size feet, so I can check out the needle size I need and if it's going to work. And then I'll make the Cozy Autumn Socks out of the other colour. So that's a new experience, a new yarn I've never used before, and cool that it was just in my local Lidl. So that is already quite a hefty list, but I do have some honourable mentions that I'd really like to get around to if I have a chance, but also happy to push them down the line if needs be. The first is a pattern called Juliet by Juliet Fink. It is just this lovely cropped t-shirt pattern, quite close fitting, and I've had this on my favourites for so long. At the moment, I really like wearing cropped t-shirts, and I'd like to make some more. A lot of my favourites are just ones that I've bought, so I'd like to knit some. And I'm pretty sure I can make this out of scrap yarn. So if I'm craving a project and I don't want to buy yarn, I can definitely make this pattern out of scrap. The next pattern I would love to get to is the Zosia wrap cardigan, and I'm going to apologise in advance, but I'm going to attempt to say the designer's name, by Alexandra Sowoyanyuk. I had a couple of wrap cardigans on my favourites for a while, and then I found this pattern and it just surpassed all the other ones I had. I love how airy it is, as well as it has quite an interesting stitch pattern, a little bit of lace, a little bit of texture. So I would really like to add a wrap cardigan to my wardrobe. So if I get around to it, it'll probably be this one. My next honourable mention is the Sporty Knit Skort by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence. These are cool. These are so great. I can picture myself wearing these with tights. They are a very preppy looking skirt with a pair of shorts underneath, and I'd love a pair. They didn't quite make it on my official list, but these would go quite high up because I would really like to have this in my wardrobe for the winter months. So we'll see how we go. I'd like to put this further up the list if I can get my Christmas gifts and my garments done in a timely fashion. And that is it for all of my autumn and winter knitting plans. Please wish me luck, because there are a lot of pieces on this list that I have to get through. Well, that I would like to get through. A lot of it is coming out of stash. Some of it I'm hoping to buy. And yeah, I'll keep you updated in various knitting podcasts. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye. I currently have 8 categories of plans that excuse you.